So today is the 76ers offseason and what's in store for the Sixers. Coming off a very tough Eastern semifinals loss, a lot of Sixers fans hoped that the Sixers would have obtained finals this year, but that's just not the way the cookie crumbled this year. Obviously, tough blows with having Joel Embiid injured the way he did. It sucks. Sixers have a bitter taste in their mouth, no doubt. I wouldn't doubt it. Um, but their future, the finals is still a consideration for like the next 2 or 3 years for this team because this team has a great future. I guess the process or whatever paid off. Whatever. I thought the process ended or something, but we'll just say it paid off, and now we are here. Um, but we'll just hop right into it. And basically, the biggest question that is around the Sixers right now is what are they going to do with Ben Simmons? Does Ben Simmons have a part of the Sixers' future? Um, some interesting news that I saw was the Sixers declined a first round in Malcolm Brogdon for Ben Simmons. I think the Sixers are going to stay tough on what they want for Ben Simmons. They obviously are expecting a lot, but his trade value is not what it used to be just because of the way these playoffs went for him, averaging 9.9 points per game and 33% from the free throw line in that Eastern semifinals. He just didn't cut it in the playoffs, and that obviously brought his trade value down a lot. But I think the Sixers are still going to remain. I think he's a valuable trade option. So good for them sticking to it. But first round of Malcolm Brogdon, that's a tough take. But the Sixers are gonna sit on this. Obviously, they're gonna try and see what other deals they can get. So, not a bad take on not going for that pick, or that trade, but definitely a trade that was a decent trade for them. I personally don't believe that Ben Simmons is going to be on this roster at the beginning of the season. I just think that they're going to part ways. I think they think that he's the reason they didn't do as much as they could. And obviously, Joel Embiid being hurt and Danny Green getting hurt. I'm not saying Joel Embiid and Danny Green are the same valuability because it just doesn't work that way. But I'm saying Danny Green has some value on the court sometimes. So that obviously hurt, especially in the playoffs where he usually shined. Um, but they just I just don't think Ben Simmons is their guy. I think Ben Simmons is a great player, probably the best defender in the league. No doubt, perimeter, interior, whatever you want to call it, he guards the best guy 1 through 5. And when I say 1 through 5, I don't really mean 1 through 5 because doesn't usually guard bigs because Joel Embiid can do that, and Joel Embiid's a all defensive team for a reason. So usually 1 through 3 mostly, but occasionally 1 through 4. He's an amazing defender, and I think he has value. But I just don't see the Sixers wanting to sit on it and have him just like try and change it over this offseason. They said they had a lot in store for him, a lot of shooting, a lot of training this offseason, but I just don't think they're going to sit on him, and I think he's definitely going to be moved before the season begins. But hey, who knows? It's the NBA and anything can happen. But if Ben Simmons do move, I would expect the Sixers to have a hell of a package coming their way with it because I think that whatever they get for Ben Simmons is going to be the reason why they go over the top and probably have a chance to win the finals, more than likely be a favorite to win the championship next year. So definitely a win-win, I think, for the Sixers either way. But I think they'd like to get rid of Ben Simmons. Onto littler things in the Sixers offseason coming up is the Sixers free agency. They got 4 free agents coming up this summer, or this offseason, I guess. I'm usually saying summer, but the schedule, I guess, is all whack. But they have Danny Green, who's a free agent for Korkmaz, Dwight Howard, and Mike Scott. So obviously not a whole heck of a lot of loss here, and not a lot of money if they want to regain these guys. I personally think they probably want to bring back Korkmaz. He's a shooter, but I don't think it's going to take a lot for it costs a lot for them to do that. Danny Green, they could bring him back, but I just don't see it happening. Dwight Howard, I think if you could get him, get him. If it's not gonna work, then I don't see it being affecting them either way, because they obviously have some young guys like Isaiah Joe and Paul Reed coming up who could obviously get some backup minutes, not at the center position, but for the four. But obviously those young guys, and which I'll talk about in a sec with the Sixers youth, those young guys can obviously affect this for signing of Dwight Howard, I believe. But yeah, either way, I don't see the Sixers losing a whole heck of a lot here. And then last but not least, I guess, Mike Scott. I don't think they really care if they re-sign him or not. I don't really see them re-signing him because they didn't really do much. But yeah, the Sixers free agency not very exciting, and they do not have a whole heck of a lot of money, so I don't think they'll make a big splash this offseason, but I think they may get at least one little surprise signing in this free agency. So, and the next thing I'm talking about is the Sixers youth. Like I said before, there's several names here that belong in this category of Sixers youth. And the first is I have Maxey ? A star ? I think Maxey can fit into a role like I think he could be like a Lou Will type six man. I think he could be a great six man for this Sixers team. Don't really see him starting, but obviously he's so young that it's hard to tell. But from what I've seen already and the way he plays, it's close to Lou Will, and it's I think he's gonna find a position in a sixth role or something like that he's gonna fit in, and he's gonna roll in, and he's gonna love that to be in that position. I think he is gonna be a star. A sixth man is a star, I guess. I don't think he's going to be a superstar, but I obviously think he's going to have a good sophomore year and obviously help the Sixers team a lot off the bench, because the bench was a big problem in this playoffs and this season for the Sixers. The next person is the future of Matisse Thybulle. Obviously, probably a top. I think him and Ben Simmons are probably the best perimeter defenders out there. If you watch Matisse Thybulle play, he's just so lengthy and long and speedy and quick that he's a built defender. He is built to defend, and this guy's going to be in the DPOY, I think, conversation for the next few years. And obviously look for his offensive game to step up too. He's still young, like I said. He can kind of shoot the occasional three, but not very great. His percentages aren't great, but obviously he can bump that up a little bit time in the gym. And then the next two, I'm going to pair them because they're in the similar boat coming out of the G League, and that's Isaiah Joe and Paul Reed. Obviously, Paul Reed coming off the G League MVP, didn't win MVP, G League MVP. That was great for the Sixers, obviously, getting someone like Paul Reed who could fit into their system, and I think who was developed in the G League perfectly. Obviously won MVP, so I think it's in a great favor for Paul Reed, and I think he's gonna get a lot of minutes next year. I wouldn't say a lot, but more than what he has gotten more than he got this past year, because I think he can step up big, and he's a bright young player that I think could dominate for the Sixers bench. And then Isaiah Joe was great in the G League with Paul Reed. These two were phenomenal on the Blue Coats. Definitely Isaiah Joe, look for someone to have a better year. He's definitely going to get more minutes like Paul Reed, and I think that he and Isaiah Joe, Paul Reed, and Maxey, I think is going to be a bright future for this Sixers bench, which was a huge problem, like I said. But there's some bright spots with this youth, and if it pays off, then it obviously is going to work out well for them. So the Sixers' future and off season, I don't think is in question. I don't think is in jeopardy, and I think it's just had a little setback this past year. Obviously wanted to go all the way, but just a little setback. But I think the next year and maybe 2 or 3 years, they're still going to be contender favorites, and look out for them to possibly make a big run next year for this if they can still stay healthy and they find the right parts if Ben Simmons trade. But yep, good luck Sixers, and that'll be it.